Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm very excited to call this session of the Agricultural Advisory Committee to order. We are starting at 9 a.m. today with a quorum of members. Before I hand off the business of the agenda today, we do have to go through the annual election of the chair and vice chair. Before we get into the nitty-gritty business of it, I would just like to thank Keith, who had done a wonderful job chairing us over the past year, as well as our vice chair. And with that, I would just like to ask if there are any nominations for the chair of the Agricultural Advisory Committee for 2024. Any nominations?
I would nominate Brenda Sway, if she'll stand.
Brenda, would you? I see a shaking of head no.
Thanks, Hugh, but I would rather nominate Lori. Though, is Keith not wanting to stay on as in this position, or it has to move on?
Keith has very kindly agreed to share the role for this year.
Okay.
So if Lori is keen to stand.
I guess.
I promise to make it as painless as possible.
I know you will, and thank you so much for the nomination.
Do I have a seconder for that nomination? Councillor McQueen. Perfect. And with Lori accepting the nomination, do I have a motion to close nominations, or would there be any other nominations to raise? Hugh, do you move to close?
I do.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And with that, Lori, you will be our chair of the Agricultural Advisory Committee for 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and I will be leaning hard on you as we learn this new role.
Always happy to help, of course. Are there any nominations for vice chair for the Agricultural Advisory Committee for the year 2024? Any nominations for vice chair?
I'll nominate Paul McQueen.
Thank you. Councillor McQueen, would you accept the role of vice chair for this year?
I could. I was sort of hoping that we get somebody that's non-county councillor on there, but if nobody else wishes to be on there, I would take that role. But is there somebody else that is a non-county councillor that would be willing to stand up for that, or even Keith as a vice chair, as past chair?
Any other nominations?
I would nominate Hugh Simpson.
Hugh, would you accept the nomination for vice chair?
Sure, if Paul doesn't want to take it.
No, I think it's important that somebody's non-county councillor. So yes, I decline.
Thank you, Councillor McQueen. So moved by Lori for Hugh to be vice chair. Do I have a seconder for that motion? And Hugh has accepted and stands acclaimed. So congratulations, Hugh, on being the vice chair for the Agricultural Advisory Committee for 2024. Seeing no other nominees, can I have a motion to close nominations, please? And I will call on Keith as the closer for those. Thank you very much. Lori, I'm now going to hand the agenda off to you as chair, but do feel free to call on me at any time for any assistance I can be, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, for joining today's meeting. Lots of interesting stuff here. Pretty short, so we're going to sail through things, I guess. Any declarations of interest to begin with? Seeing none. Moving on to, we have one delegation today. Do we have Sarah with us? So Sarah Epp from the University of Guelph was to be our only delegation.
I do seem to see a phone delegation here, and I'm just going to ask them to unmute really quickly to see if that might be Sarah.
It's the right kind of number to be coming from Guelph, but that maybe doesn't mean a lot.
Olivia from Communications just popping in. We have asked them to unmute. They have the ability
we are.
to. Oh, there we go.
It's Blair Freeman here, just dialed in.
Okay, thank you, Blair.
Shall we move on to point 5 and hopefully Sarah will join us after that?
Yes, Madam Chair, I think that would be best. Thank you.
Thank you. So point 5 is items for direction or discussion, and we have a discussion about experimental acres and the ag survey. Is that Megan and Rebecca, I'm assuming?
Yep, you got it, Lori. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy belated Canadian Agriculture Day. And thanks for letting me be able to join the committee today. My name is Megan Miles, and I'm the Climate Change Outreach and Engagement Coordinator. I've been in this role since last July. And I'm here to provide an update on 2 current opportunities for farmers, one being experimental acres, and the other being a farmer survey that we launched at Grey Bruce Farmers Week. And both of these initiatives are part of implementation of Going Green and Grey, the county's climate action plan, which was approved by council in 2022. Can go to the next one, Sarah. Recognizing the role of agriculture in our local economy and our food system, Action 3 is one of our key foundational pillars of the climate plan. Farmers play an important role in climate mitigation and adaptation by adopting beneficial management practices. So this action, it focuses on building capacity for sustainable agriculture, such as knowledge sharing, pilot projects, and demonstrations. And that could be related to manure management, such as manure storage best practices, feed additives, rotational grazing. Could be around soil health and carbon capture, including things such as cover cropping, decrease of bare fallow and reduced tillage, reducing methane, and restoring degraded lands and converting marginal land. As well as energy conservation and production, such as incorporating on-farm renewables or methane or biogas capture and conversion. And many of these practices directly align with existing initiatives such as ALICE, initiatives from the conservation authorities, as well as educational programs from Grey Ag Services. Next slide. So Going Green and Grey identifies these following targets. So 60% of natural land for pasture, 90% of cropland, and 50% of manure under beneficial management practices to minimize greenhouse gas emissions and maximize carbon capture by 2050. However, from further research and conversations with farmers, we started to realize that there isn't necessarily as clear consensus on what these best management practices are. And we're still working to understand which ones are in practice locally and work for our local context. So next slide. Knowing that farmers know their land and the industry best, we designed a survey with these objectives: to better understand current farming practices, to begin to collect baseline data to measure progress against those targets, to identify how we can continue to support adoption of best practices, and to gather and showcase success stories that are made in Grey of the work being done by Grey County farmers. Prior to launching the survey, we received input from a small group of farmers and Grey Ag Services to just make sure the questions that we were asking were appropriate, and the things that we identified as best practices or possible practices. I think in the survey, we didn't even call them best practices, we just called them practices. And then we launched the survey at Farmers Week, and then we've been promoting it through the county website, social media, an email list, as well as Grey Ag Services. And this survey is open till February 23rd. Next slide. Yeah, just to give you a sense of the questions, we can provide a report of the survey results at a future committee meeting. But these questions include kind of the nature of the farm, location, size, types of products. Most importantly, the kind of meat of the survey was around how different practices apply to their farm. So respondents would say whether they're not familiar, if they have tried them, if they would consider currently trying, adopted or not applicable, to a range of practices that fall under these 3 categories: soil or organic matter, livestock and manure management, energy conservation and production, as well as it gives farmers an opportunity to indicate if there's any additional practices that they're doing on their farm, or if there's any kind of success stories that they're aware of. We're also asking whether they're noticing climate or weather related changes, what they're noticing, and what are the things that they're doing to adapt, like wrapping more hay or longer season crops. And so, yeah, it would be great we have about 25 farmers, or 25 respondents, and about over 80% of those are from farmers. So it'd be great to get some more, in the next week or so. But it really a good starting point, just to better understand what the landscape is. Next slide, Sarah. The other initiative is Experimental Acres, as you're all probably fairly familiar about. So last year we joined a pilot project led by Wellington County. Yeah, thanks, Brenda. Yeah, we'll be sharing a link to the survey. It's at the end of the slide. It can be found at gray.ca/climate action. And Sarah's also going to circulate the link after the meeting. So yeah, Experimental Acres is an initiative that started with Wellington County. However, that funding finished. So this year it's funded by Grey County and delivered by Grey Ag Services. Experimental Acres supports farmers in implementing sustainable agricultural best practices. We want to hear ideas from farmers about how they're working to improve yield, soil health, and overall sustainability using new cropping practices, livestock practices, or other innovations. And the purpose of the program is to really help de-risk the learning season of a new practice with both financial support, as well as some support testing, like doing soil tests and whatnot. There's 3 categories: living roots and green cover. So those are projects which extend the time soil is covered or has living roots in it, and up to $1,000 is available per farm. Innovation, so implementing new ways of doing things, and up to $2,000 is available per farm. And integrating animals on the farm, where up to $3,000 is available per farm. And there's an opportunity for we have budget for about 6 farms to participate. And we've established criteria to evaluate the applications, which will be reviewed by Grey County staff as well as Grey Ag staff. Emily's running the program. And then we'll be showcasing the projects and sharing lessons learned from those farms selected as well. Next slide. Yeah, so gray.ca/climate action is where we have both the link to Experimental Acres. We're accepting responses on both of those till February 23rd to keep it simple. And that concludes my presentation.
Thanks so much, Megan, for sharing all that great information. Grey Ag Services is really happy to work with you on those projects. And yeah, Emily's quite excited to get into the field, so that's great. Any questions or comments for Megan? Just raise your hand, please. Rebecca.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that for the Experimental Acres, we are open to farms who have done it previously to have like a follow-up as the next year. So there's a couple of you potentially on the call today that have done it. So it can be like a continuation of the previous project. But yes, everything else Megan said was great.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. Brenda.
I was just wondering, what has the response rate been so far? Like, do we have a good number of applications in yet?
For Experimental Acres?
Yes.
Yeah, Emily at Grey Ag Services, she's the one receiving those responses. So I don't know, Lori, do you have a sense of
Last I heard, it was only 1 application thus far, but I know there's been lots of chatter about it. I've had quite a few farmers asking me just socially saying, oh, I saw about Experimental Acres, could I do that? So I think the interest is there. Like typical programs, farmers are usually at the last minute, they do the application. So we trust that there will be lots of applications before the deadline.
Mm-hmm. And we did just put the media release out this past Tuesday to try to just get the word out there, and hopefully some media have picked that up as well. So spread the word.
Thanks, Brenda. Any other questions or comments? No? Well, thank you very much, Megan, for presenting that information. It's great to see that's going ahead. Wonderful. Do we have Dr. Sarah Epp with us? I didn't see her on the participant list yet.
For you, Madam Chair, no, I don't believe she's joined the call yet, but I have reached out to try and help her join the meeting if possible.
Thank you so much. Then I guess we'll go ahead to the roundtable discussion. This is the opportunity for us to share ideas of maybe what we'd like to see at future meetings. The grassroots can tell the non-farmers what's going on in their lives, their circles. And so open it up to the floor for discussion, please. You can raise your hand or just talk. Brenda, please start us off.
Maybe this is actually first a question to Lori and Keith about how the drainage training session on Saturday, it was this past Saturday. I was away, so I couldn't attend it, but I was just sort of wanting to ask about the kind of, if there's going to be more training on this, and if the actual session talked at all about how to create sort of the on-farm sort of, you know how when you do the drainage, you can also put them into like a whole set of cleaning sort of vessels, if you want to call them that. I know there's proper words for all of this. You guys can tell me what they are, but the idea is that if drainage it does get set up on farmland, that it also leaves the farm cleaner than as clean as it can be. So just wanted to maybe get an update on that.
Keith, please.
Sure, if I may. Yeah, we had an excellent day. The Curry Farm hosted the day. We had 60 people attended for the lunch, which I think is a great turnout. And really great questions, answers from the panelists was all really well received. Lots of great comments following. We had Sid Vanderveen, which is a wealth of knowledge, and definitely I think the county is aware of him as well, who used to be a OMAFRA, I guess drainage inspector with OMAFRA originally, and then now since moved to RJ Burnside as an engineer. But really he can answer every question with an example of something that has happened somewhere else, which makes it really great for the farmer to learn, and also municipal reps that were also in attendance too, which is great to see. So Scott was there and was glad to see that, as well as some road superintendents too from Meaford and Chatsworth, I believe, too. So I think they got an excellent day. We also had Byron Bothwell, who's a local drainage contractor, kind of basically right down to the bones of why tile drainage is important, or why it's a practice on farm, and showing the benefits of what tile drainage is. And then Mel Limas finished the day with kind of that piece that you're kind of talking about, Brenda, which is kind of the green infrastructure, sediment ponds, controlled drainage, all of those things that can be worked into the drainage aspect of things. So, and then finished with a panel. And right from the get-go, when I met the presenters ahead of time, they all said, I would rather not get through my presentation, but answer questions from the floor. And that was kind of the way the day really unfolded. So there's a really great intuitive back and forth from the presenters to the floor. So it was really a great day. And I think that there is interest definitely to have a follow-up possibly next year. And I think that there is interest there. So and I do believe there is something to be said about a shed meeting. It just kind of a different scenario. Not meeting in the boardroom is a lot easier. Maybe we had I heard a lot of people say, I just wanted to see Don Curry's shed, to be honest. So anyway, so we may have to move the venue if everybody's seen it now. But anyways, 80 by 200 foot driving shed with 5 combines in it is remarkable to see. And we really were thankful of the Currys to open up their shed for us. So Scott, do you have any comments, or anybody else that attended? There was a couple of you there as well.
Scott Mackey, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And, just to echo Keith's comments, I thoroughly enjoyed the day. I realized how much I didn't know about tile drainage, and I certainly had my eyes opened, from a municipal standpoint, what the responsibilities are for municipalities. The panelists were all very knowledgeable. And I went away knowing a lot more than I did going into the day. So I would certainly encourage Keith and Gray Ag Services to follow up with another day. And I would encourage members of this committee, if they have the opportunity to try and go to this. It was just a wealth of knowledge, and I thoroughly appreciated the day. The lunch was wonderful. We were well looked after, and as Keith said, it was nice to see Don Shed and the investment that he's put into agriculture. And when you see all these $1 million combines lined up, it's pretty impressive. So, and there was a lot of farmers there and a lot of good questions, and it was just a great day. So appreciate, and I thanks for the opportunity to be able to attend.
Thanks so much, Scott. And thank you so much to Keith. Graybruce Alice did a lot of the organization for this one, which was great, and support from Gray Sawville Conservation Authority as well. We have a small office, as you know, so there would be no one left to man the office. So I sent Emily and I stayed in the office. So that's what you have to do. So I missed it. So hopefully next year it'll be on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and I'll get to go. So I look forward to that. Following up on, it's great to get out of the boardroom. Yesterday we had a beef course, and we had spent the afternoon in Bert Tupling's beef operation and his potato operation, and that was another outstanding course. This afternoon we have 35 people coming, hopefully weather permitting, to come to a succession course, and we've never had that many people wanting to come to a succession course. We didn't even have to beat them over a head, which we normally have to get them to come. So it's lovely to see them. Any other questions about the tile drainage meeting? Otherwise we'll go to Hugh. Hugh, please.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. This is to your question, Laura, your suggestion about in the roundtable, are there other things we'd like to see on the agenda, consideration for future? And just a reminder, I think, for us all that, and a request from me, that in the spirit of, I guess what I'll say is the consultation aspect of our mandate for this committee from an ag perspective, I just like to remind the group that if staff at county are aware of policy or discussions that are likely to have some impact directly or nearly directly on agriculture, those of us who are on the farm side, may not know about those kinds of things. And so this is kind of a request to say that just because we haven't asked for something to be on the agenda, I would really invite staff to, be proactive about saying, here's something that I think I should make the committee aware of. It may not need to go anywhere after that, but I certainly would appreciate sort of some lead time or heads up. It helps me, and I think all of us, communicate with our farm stakeholders if we know that there are some things being discussed or considered at county, and it may be very early on in the process, and I don't think we should be shy about sharing that. We all have an understanding about our role here. And so whenever something like that occurs to staff, I would just encourage it, as I say, in the spirit of communication and consultation, to bring it to the meeting and say, heads up, here's something we're talking about. Maybe it's too early to ask for input, but eventually you're going to hear some more about it, we think. So we're bringing it to you now. So that was a request and a reminder. And I think we're doing that already, Madam Chair, but can't hurt to highlight it as a necessary. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Hugh. Anyone have comment from what he is proposing? No, sounds like a great idea, Hugh. Thank you.
Sorry,
Gail.
Laura,
Oops, sorry, Simon.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry, Laura. I'm still busy finishing my breakfast, so I was a little late clicking off. Anyhow, just following up on Keith and on you there, drainage day was, I missed part of it because I had another meeting, but excellent day. And to Brenda's question about contour draining and all the new things that are here and probably more coming down the pipe. Maybe that's something we could address in another year, Keith. The retaining of water that at some point is excess, I think will become increasingly important in times to come with shifts that we see in agriculture, like to be more cropping that will be making use of irrigation of some sort. So there is a lot of stuff that we can probably look at some point.
Thanks so much, Simon. Gail.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was selected as a public appointee, but I do sit on Town of the Blue Mountains Council, and it was raised at a council meeting about a week and a half ago about our future story. And the mayor asked me to bring our future story to the ag meeting here. And so there is a resolution that's being brought forward to inform and make more people knowledgeable about the Blue Mountains future story, because we did have an individual who came to our council meeting and spoke about how agriculture is failing in Pillar 7, which is about agriculture. I spoke stating that we are following best practices. We're doing as much as we can possibly do, planting trees, not just apple trees. I'm an apple grower, but we are planting other trees and we are looking after our crops. And I asked why she felt we were failing, and I didn't get an answer back. But I think that Gray's ag meeting should be well informed of what the Town of the Blue Mountains is doing, because they have 20 pillars. And I was just kind of taken back, because I think the agricultural community in the Town of the Blue Mountains is doing the best that they can at right now. For crops, apple trees, we have beekeepers as well, everything we can possibly do. So I don't know where the comment came from or why it came, but I'm just following up. I'm chair of ag tonight, and we're going to be having a meeting and discussing this as well. So and about a new tree cutting bylaw, so that all the trees are being monitored in the Town of the Blue Mountains and counted, except for not on private properties. So things are happening, and I just think that ag should be well aware of what's happening at the eastern portion of the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Kim, I'm thinking that you want to comment on Gail's comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, again, and thank you, Gail, for your presentation and your concern about agriculture. It's not just I think in East Tray that the public is woefully unaware of what we're doing in agriculture. I think we're way ahead of some of the targets as far as our climate change and conservation stuff that we do. I can't stress it enough that we got to put this out in the forefront and say, and this is what we're doing. And there is this thing on social media, like the farmers meetings are excellent, but there is farmers that come there and not, as a rule, not very many people from the public. So we do miss some opportunity to show our goodwill.
Thank you so much, Simon. CAO Wingrove, please.
Thanks, Lori. And just a quick question. Gail, should we be expecting to get some formal correspondence from the town or others on this initiative? I don't think we've had anything specific.
I believe so. This resolution was being forwarded. Our future story is on the website.
Yes, yes.
And I believe that they were going to send that up. So I can ask today what's happening with that or where it is. And
That's fine. I can follow up for sure.
Okay.
I just we hadn't seen something specific, and I didn't know if there was going to be either an ask or just maybe even just a request to review or further distribute. So happy to do any of those things, and I'll reach out to the staff at TDF. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Kim. Thanks so much, Gail. Hugh, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just thanks, Gail. A quick question, two quick questions. One was I missed who it was, and I'm not necessarily talking about the name, but whether this was a person in some official capacity who was making the statement that we are failing. And then the second part of my question is, well, just to clarify on the first, whether that was that a counselor or was that just sort of was that somebody from the public? I'm curious about that. And the second part is, was there any mention about what is the criteria for failure? What is it when they're talking about failure? Not exactly sure what Pillar 7 is, but are we failing on the environmental side or failing economically or so those two things, just for clarification, if I may.
If I can answer, Hugh, yes, it was an individual who had sat on the Sustainability Committee for 4 years and felt they are not a farmer, that we were failing. And I had a list of things of why we were not failing. And so Pillar, it's about agriculture and meeting climate action and doing the best possible things for carbon, everything. So I was well prepared. I had 2 big sheets of paper ready to go. So I think they've become informed now that we are not failing. We are doing the best we can for best practices in agriculture in the town of the Blue Mountains, and I believe everywhere in Grey County. I just think that not being actively involved in farming, they don't what we do every single day.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes. Go ahead, Hugh.
Yeah, just a point that might be helpful. We've come up, as Simon says, we've come up with against this before from time to time, and it may or may not be useful, and there may or may not be other resources. But I do know that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture has created a communication piece that does a pretty good job of talking about, what is the ag sector's policy statement on environmental related issues. It also talks about some of the initiatives that have been developed and are being implemented. And it's a fairly effective way of arming those of us who need to communicate on this subject with those who need to be communicated with. So that might be something we want to reach out to get. And if somebody wants me to be helpful in that regard, I can do that.
Thank you very much, Hugh. I see Gail nodding her head, so I'm sure she will reach out if needed. Randy, please.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. And just further to Gail's comments, I think that's part of the reason why what Megan presented in terms of the farmer survey, just to try to capture some of those success stories, some of those best practices that are already happening across the landscape, so that we can share some of those best practices and those stories, right? So I think that's an important part of the farmer survey. And then also identifying where maybe some folks are looking for some further training or for some further ask for knowledge sharing and other things that we could maybe do through some of the great work that Greg Service does through Graybrush Farmers Week and other sessions that Keith mentioned earlier, right? So I think that's where we want to leverage, hopefully, the farmer survey. That's why if we could have as many farmers fill out that survey, that'd be great. Another shameless plug for the survey. But we think that's the key part of that. The reason why we're doing that survey is to share some of those success stories, and that's what we're hoping to do more countywide. Is share some of those stories, whether it's in our from our farming businesses aspects on the economic development side or the sustainable tourism side. Across the board, we want to share some of those stories that are happening throughout the landscape. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much, Randy. Hugh, just checking in. Is your hand still up?
I hope not. I
Okay.
will try and get it down.
That's
Yeah.
fine. I just wanted to check in. I'll move to Paul then, please.
Yeah, morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. Something else, this is a different topic, is a lot of the part of agriculture and the borrowing of funds come from the FCC, Farm Credit Corporation. And I wondered if there would be an opportunity that somebody in a future meeting could come speak to this committee more in a general sense of what's happening. We know that interest rates are much higher, and you know, the agricultural industry or the agricultural business borrows a lot of money, and maybe some of those combines in that barn come from that type of financing and just whatever. But you know, it is part of the business. But it would be interesting to have somebody come and speak. I don't know if it's Cam or somebody from the Owen Sound office that could come out and just, you know, talk about what's happening in the sector and the financial side and trends.
Thanks so much, Paul. We did have an excellent speaker from FCC at Crops Day to speak about macroeconomic uncertainty. What is the impact on Ontario agriculture? I could make that recording available to anyone that would like to listen to that as well or watch that. So thank you, Paul. Keith, please.
Yeah, thanks, Lori. Yeah, always super frustrating to hear stories like this, obviously, but and especially from the town of Blue Mountains when you had such a successful event with, you know, opening your doors and having that that venue for the general public to learn about what agriculture is. I know we've kind of talked about kind of replicating that too, and I think that was kind of a discussion last year with this group, and I'm wondering if that would be an excellent, I think it would be an excellent opportunity to either do a county-wide or kind of focus on different municipalities, you know, over a period of time. But I think it is all just due to just having such a gap from the agriculture reality and just a lack of knowledge that kind of brings this to the forefront. But I would propose that we kind of maybe as a group or you know, subset through Grey Ag Services or something, that we actually kind of look at doing some kind of knowledge sharing event that is on farm. I know other counties have done it with success. I believe it's Dufferin has Open Doors event, and I think that would be something that I would definitely support if we wanted to move that way.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, as I said in the last meeting, I think we're all over it. If the county wants to some support from Grey Ag to make it happen, we're there. Emily and I have chatted about it for quite a few years, so we would be keen. And I think to Gail's comment, I would also say that hopefully, like, that was one person that made that negative comment. I'm hoping that the majority of the people are thinking that ag is successful and doing wonderful things with regards to all those objectives and all those pillars. And so that's my hope. But for those that don't understand what we do in agriculture, yes, all of these educational events are key. At Grey Ag, anyone can come to any of our courses, farmers or non-farmers. And so if you know of anyone that would benefit from some of our specific courses, please invite them. We'd be happy to have them. Scott, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if Gail had something on this particular item. I don't want to step on her toes in that regard.
If I could, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Yes, we are reaching out again. We're going to be doing open fields with 5 new individuals or farmers And we're just working on that right now. And I also, near the end of March, I'm having a networking, agricultural networking event with my ag committee, and we've invited people from Ag Services. And we are having Dan Needles come in and be a guest speaker. And also I've invited Keith Curry to come and speak since he's the president now. And so, it's exciting for me to have this happening, and hopefully with my committee, we can spread the word and get it out there that, we are doing the best we can, and what else everybody else is doing. I've been talking with beef farmers, I've been talking with chicken farmers, I've been talking with everybody about sustainability plans. The apple industry, we do not have a specific sustainability plan, but we are working on one right now. So Kelly Sistren is our gal we go to, and they are hiring somebody to write us a sustainability plan so that we can, have some documents so we can give to people that, in the Blue Mountains, it's mostly orchards. So I want to be able to hand somebody, this is what we're actually doing, and give that to we don't have a sustainability committee right now, but who's ever taking over doing whatever. So, we can have a document, and that we are doing what best we can for, our community right now. But we are working on lots of things right now. And so I would help out with you if we do a county-wide open fields. I think that would be great. And I will put the push. We did win the award. So it was very heartwarming anyways. So that a lot of time and patience, and the farmers did an excellent job. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Gail. When is I know you had to postpone your original January date for your event with Dan Needles. So what is the March date now?
Well, I haven't heard back. I'm going to be calling them. I think it was March 22nd. But the other event, I'm away, and things happened. And so now it's postponed till then, and hopefully we're working and doing things now.
Perfect. And please keep us informed as to your dates for your open fields event as well. Sounds amazing. This year we'll have to make sure to join in and see what you have to offer. That's great. Thank you, Gail.
Great. Thank you.
Scott, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a few quick updates and a response to an earlier comment. First, we have heard from Dr. Epp, and unfortunately she's had something very last minute come up and she's going to be unable to join us. But she's very keen to reschedule and hopefully chat with the committee at a later date. So sorry about any inconvenience in that regard. Second, just as a response to one of Hugh's earlier comments, thanks. Great reminder, Hugh. And certainly as staff, whether it's planning or climate change or economic development, tourism, culture, or even our transportation services staff, we'll definitely come back to this committee with any new county initiatives or policy proposals that we think might have an impact, positive or potentially negative, on agriculture. And I know certainly this committee in the past has been a great sounding board. And I think one of your first meetings of this new term was with respect to some proposed provincial changes. And so certainly if we hear of provincial changes in the planning field or other fields, we'll bring them back to this table. And the next thing I wanted to share, I'm just going to share my screen here, is a bit of a long delayed update, if you will. Hopefully people can see that on the screen there now. But I'm pleased to report that Grey County has finally submitted the Niagara Escarpment Plan amendment for what we're calling the Regional Agricultural Learning and Demonstration Site. So the acronym is RALD. And for those that might be unaware, this is the property directly west of Grey Roots and Moorston. And I think Savannah's going to speak to another aspect here in just a second. But just to show you what you're seeing on the screen there, this is the western edge of the Moorston Heritage Village, and this is the proposed RALD site, as we're calling it, which, if approved by the Niagara Escarpment Commission, would end up being a multi-purpose site that would be a collaboration with both the Chatsworth and Owen Sound Agricultural Societies, would be a future fall fair site, would be a future site for other learning opportunities, such as perhaps Grown and Gray, or maybe even the Sydenham Fall Fair. And it will also be, it's also currently a partnership with the Blue Water District School Board, who is looking at moving the high skills major in agriculture program. And with that, I might just turn it over to Savannah, who has a bit of an exciting update there as well.
Thanks, Scott. Yes, we're really happy to let you know that the Specialist High Skill Major officially kicked off last Monday. So it is now currently at Grey Roots, and it's 1-year pilot, which is great news. So there are 8 students, all women, which is amazing. And they are in the schoolhouse for their classroom. They're going to be in the Orange Hall to propagate the seedlings. The Sugar Shack is now on site in that top right corner of where Scott just showed on the map. So there is a little bit of work that's happening on the World site right now, and we did receive NEC approval over the winter for that. So that was really good news. So after March break, the next steps for the group, they'll have access to the barn, and that's when the animals will start to come in. And then they'll also be bringing a greenhouse to site. So really happy that all of the work and really came from this committee in the first place to look at this pilot partnership, and it is off and running, and we're really happy that it's actually happening now. So a huge thank you to Jill and all of the Blue Water School Board staff. They have been wonderful through this, and Scott and planning staff for helping us with NEC and to get the approvals necessary to get up and running so that, you know, we've got it there and it is now on site. So I just wanted to share that news with you since it is only a week and a bit old.
Thanks so much, Savannah. Thanks so much, Scott. Great to hear that that Specialist High Skills Major program is rolling at Grey Roots. Our daughter went to it when it was in Chesley, and it's a fantastic program. Grey Bruce Farmers Week supports that through a scholarship, so we're happy that it's rolling again and that our funds can be given out to the students that certainly deserve the funds. Thank you, Savannah. Brenda.
A couple comments. First of all, it's wonderful to hear that this is happening and that the course, if that's what you want to call it, is up and running again. First question I have is, who is the teacher for that now that Dennis is, I think, retired? I just haven't heard yet, so I don't know, Lori, if you know already too, or.
The teacher that was there has
Okay.
left, and then there's another teacher that started on this week. So someone else, I can't remember the name. So
Dylan
Savannah?
Williams. Dylan Williams is the
Thank
teacher
you.
who began last week. Yeah.
Dylan Williams? And
Yes.
which school is he? Is he aligned with a particular high school in Owen Sound, or?
That I couldn't tell you. It was a very last minute introduction of Dylan.
Okay. And then just a note, I know that we don't have Dr. Epp with us today. I did do a really quick skim of her slides, and one thing that popped out at me was having young people, young farmers represented. And as soon as Savannah talked about having this high schools major coming back up again, and looking around the room here, we're not really the youngest set of farmers out here in Grey County. I'm just wondering, we probably don't have space, or I don't know if we're allowed to make space for a young person for this year. I mean, I would certainly be happy to welcome a young person, but is this something we could bring up for discussion for a future agricultural advisory committee, and or even for this year? And I don't even know if anyone has anyone in mind to be, or perhaps we send out some sort of call out through all of our different ag groups for a young farmer. Of course, we'd also have to define what a young farmer is. I think that the age keeps going up. It might even be 39 and younger at this point.
That was my question as well, Brenda. What is young farmer anymore? And so anyone have any thoughts to Brenda's comments about trying to bring a youth or a young person into the committee? Is that possible, or does that have to happen next go round?
Through you, Madam Chair, I might suggest that staff take that away and bring an update back to the committee at the next meeting.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Blair.
I just wanted to circle back to that sustainability discussion. Just in my head, so I think my farm is sustainable, but I also see what's happening here with the forestry sector. There's a pile of ash trees dying everywhere. As these things are dying, they're all getting pushed down, thrown on a pile and burnt, right? And so from a from a person driving by or a person in a subdivision here in town, the optics are not good, right? Regardless of, you know, I can point to XYZ things that I'm doing on my farm that I think are sustainable, but somebody drives by and sees that I cut all the dead ash trees down and burnt them. Is there a place here to be proactive with, I'm thinking of Grace Sauble's tree planting program or the Maple Leaf Forever thing, or some way to get in front of this, because there's a pile of ash trees are going to come down in the next 3 years.
Can anyone respond to Blair's comment?
I'll try to take a stab at that, Chair. So, with respect to the Going Green and Gray, there is a target to look at doing some tree planting. We've had some initial discussions with our member municipalities and our municipal partners. So we've set up what's called a climate change community practice, where we have representatives from each of the local municipalities. We also have a external group that includes folks from various conservation authorities as well on that group. So we are looking at trying to see what opportunities exist when it comes to tree planting, whether that's on public properties or private properties, and what that looks like going forward. So further information once we have a bit more details or what options we're considering, I think would be a great discussion for this group in terms of what makes the most sense, what would work for the farming community if when it comes to tree planting programs and other things like that. So really excellent point though on the ash side. We're seeing those impacts in our county forests as well. We've been targeting specifically ash trees for a number of years when we're doing sustainable harvests within our county forests. Just because we know the future is as you noted, Blair, is bleak when it comes to ash trees. So where we can get some more regeneration going for other tree species in those forests, that's why we've been specifically targeting ash trees for a number of years now in our county forests. So I think there's an opportunity to work on some messaging jointly between the farming community and ourselves to look at, and conservation authorities, like you noted, Blair, to say like what that looks like from an ash trees, what are some best practices in terms of managing those ash trees, so that when folks do see that there's some trees being cut, in some cases or most cases right now, it's likely targeting some of those ash trees because they are in fact dying in our forests. So that's something that we could maybe explore further, and bring back some further information once we have a better sense of what those tree planting programs may look like. And of course, any input and feedback that this committee has on any of that, we'd be interested in hearing that as well.
Thank you, Randy. Blair, did you have any comment to the points that you've heard?
Yeah, I guess I would just say every farmer has a chunk of marginal land somewhere, but nobody has time to deal with it. So it's more about the easy button, and I think most people are reasonable and want to contribute to the future. So if there's a solution that's presented, if there was an easy button solution, I think there would be uptake.
Thank you. I'm looking, we have about 8 minutes left, but this discussion is amazing. So I would hope that we can continue with this just shortly. Gail, you wanted something to add something?
Yes, thank you. I've been in touch with Mike Fry from Gray Sauble, and not every municipality in Gray has an ag committee. So I've reached out to him that we are going to try and do a joint Zoom meeting with Gray Sauble's ag meeting committee and Blue Mountains ag. And I was going to try and reach out to other municipalities who don't have an ag committee, if they can start looking at maybe the next term of getting one, or even putting a call for tender out now, so that they can start doing something and getting established, so that every municipality in Grey County has an ag committee so that they can get the word out about elm and ash and good farming practices that the farmers are doing. So I'll be short and sweet just because I know we don't have a lot of time, but that's what I'm working on. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Gail. Simon, please.
Thank you, Laurie. I don't mean this to be derogatory to any seed company, but we have new varieties, corn and beans coming, and wheat and whatever coming to us every year. I still try to grapple with the fact that after a long number of years, there is no strain of elm that seemed to have been cultivated that is resistant to the disease, and the ash borer, we have seen it come for a number of years now. I've talked to people that are in the forestry. They said it is not so easy to do that, but I think there's a challenge there for the universities to start breeding trees that are resistant to disease.
Excellent comment, Simon. Thank you. Paul, please. Councillor McQueen.
Yeah, just going back to the part about the ash trees, I know back in the 70s, it was a huge issue with the Dutch elm disease, as Simon was sort of mentioning, but it was, I think even the provincial government paid farmers to even clean them up because they're all across all the fence rows. And, you know, at that time, you know, elm trees were a predominant tree. I wonder, and this is maybe back to Blair, I wonder, you know, ash isn't as good a firewood as maple or maybe other, but it is still a hardwood. I wonder if there's a way that a win-win where people could use it to for firewood or something like that. So you turn it around to maybe a negative thing into a positive thing. I know it's a lot of maybe it'd be hard to arrange or hard to that, but I just wonder if that's the positive spin that, you know, instead of seeing it in piles and you know, massive burning, as if there would be a way that it could be repurposed for others that, you know, need firewood. And, you know, with the cost of everything, there's probably a number of people that would love to have the ability to, you know, cut that and remove it. So I know there's a lot of things like liability, who are you, and all that kind of stuff. But I just wonder, is that a positive spin of something that people maybe see as a negative thing?
Thanks so much, Paul. Blair, you still have your hand up. Do you have more comments? I'm thinking since he doesn't have his video on, probably not at the moment. Simon, please. Oops. No.
Well, just maybe as a closure, I had one business venture that failed this fall, and we had a table on the road with bags with firewood, and it was all ash, and it stood there for 6 weeks, and we managed to sell 3 bags, and we almost gave them away.
So not a success story.
No, what not?
Wonderful conversation today. Thank you for everyone's comments. This is the beauty of this committee, is the opportunity to share all these amazing ideas. Something that I was thinking of during the week, and now I'm thinking of it even more strongly. This committee has a lot of grassroots voices and farmers that are doing different things. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be interesting for those that would be willing to profile their farm or what they're dealing with at this current moment at some of the Ag Advisory Committee meetings? So maybe we pick one per committee and, you know, profile the dairy industry, profile the beef industry, whatever the individuals are, or whatever farming that they represent. And maybe it's just a 5-minute presentation, but just sort of say, here's what I do and here's what I'm dealing with right now. Here's where I could use some help. So I don't know whether that would work or not, but maybe an idea. And one last idea, I have a chat tomorrow with a person that's just taken a position as the ag specialist at the municipality of North Perth. I have no idea what an ag specialist is. I think it's cool that a municipality has assigned someone to this role. I'll learn more tomorrow, but I just thought it was an interesting sign of the times. And so I look forward to finding out what his mandate is, etc. Okay, moving on. To point 7, correspondence. There was a variety of correspondence brought forward. We certainly don't have to review it all, but if anyone has any comments, we can discuss it. Otherwise, looking for a motion to accept the correspondence as presented. Shirley, are you passing that motion, moving that motion? A seconder, please. Hugh? All in favor? I would say that's unanimous, Sarah. Thank you. Next point is other business. Anyone have anything? Seeing no hands, I'll pause because I know I moved quick. Seeing no hands, just a quick plug for our courses, Grey Ag courses. If anyone would like to attend any of them, they're offered as hybrids, in person and straight webinar. So please join us. And also a huge thank you to Grey County for really getting involved at Grey Bruce Farmers Week this year. It was great to see all of you chatting with the farmers, learning more about, even more about agriculture. So thank you for doing that. Our next meeting date, Sarah, it says
Madam
June.
Chair.
Sorry?
My apologies for the interruption. I think you have one last hand for other business.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brenda.
I'm just throwing this out there because we seem to be going through this meeting really quickly, and I just, especially with what you just said, Lori, showcasing farms and what they're doing. I'm a sheep farm. It's a bit different. We're not just in it for meat, but I actually want to bring up something else that's happening, which some of you may have heard of. Jennifer Osborne over at All Sorts Acres, which is pretty much the southern part of Grey County, has been doing a lot of work on wool pelletizing and that sort of thing. We've had a bunch of other sheep farmers in this county also touch on it a little bit over the past few years. It's a little bit hit and miss. It's a lot of marketing required because it's kind of a novel product, not that it's really a new sort of thing. But I guess what I just wanted to point out is we always talk a lot about like natural services, we talk about food when it comes to agriculture, but actually textiles and sustainable production of fertilizers and insulations, clothing, all those things are also a part of agriculture. And in Grey County, we have a lot of really hidden sheep farmers. I think that every second farm has like a flock of sheep out in the back. And it's a lot of fleece that is not actually being used for anything, because in Canada over many years, it has just fallen by the wayside ever since essentially World War II. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up as a really quick thing since we seem to have some time. Just keep it on your radar. I think that perhaps this is an economic development related to ag piece that might really move forward in the next decade or so.
Thanks so much, Brenda. And actually, Jennifer Osborne created an excellent presentation as part of our on-demand recordings for Grey Bruce Farmers Week, talking all about wool and the other uses that were quite, at this point, hadn't been used to seeing it used for soil moisture control, used as a mat to prevent weeds, etc. And so there's lots of research and information that she has to share in that presentation. So if anyone would be interested in learning more about wool, I can make that presentation available to you as well. So maybe I was under the incorrect assumption. I thought this meeting was only going till 10 today. Maybe I was wrong. So sorry if I've been pushing you through. With all of everything else said, it looks like the next point is adjournment. Could someone please make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I will do so.
Thank you, Simon. I believe you don't have to have a seconder for an adjournment, Sarah.
That's correct, Madam Chair. We can accept on motion of Simon.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us to this meeting today. We'll see you again on June 20th. And if you have any thoughts at all during the time from now till June about topics for the next meeting, I would encourage you to let the county know or let myself know, and I will forward that to the appropriate people at the county. I think it's important that the topics are driven by the grassroots people as well as great comments and ideas from the county. So I look forward to all of the suggestions for the next meeting. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you for stepping in today, Madam Chair, so seamlessly. I'm sure on behalf
Thank
of the
you.
group, it's much appreciated.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.